Damon Mitchell, welcome back, brother.
Hey, Matt. Dude, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Why are you in town?
So I'm playing some shows. In fact, I come into town about once a month, and I spend pretty much like a week here. I often play the Putters, which is a gig that you got me a long time ago.
Really? From Joey?
I'm not sure. You hit me up one day, and you said, I have a cancellation. Could you play at Putters in Liberty Township tonight?
Are you sure that wasn't on me? Because I've never played Putters.
Really? Okay, I swear. I told someone this story last night, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think what probably happened was either... Do you know Joey Fulton?
I don't.
So Joey plays up there a decent amount, and he may have asked me, do you know anyone that might be available? And I will give you a recommendation while you're living in town. So that could have worked out, but I've never played Putters, so it makes fun.
Well, it's a great gig.
Yeah.
So I played Liberty Township last night, and then they have a location in Maineville.
Nice.
So I stay in Mason when I'm here. I used to live in that area, and so I stay at the place I used to live, and it makes it really easy because I'm only like 15 minutes from either location.
That's killer.
Then I'll play Frankfort, Kentucky, which isn't too far, on Thursday, and then I'll be at Adesso in Mason on Friday, and then I play with Adam Calvert up in Zanesville, Ohio on Saturday. So it's like an Ohio run, and that's why I'm in town, and always good to see you.
When you do a split run like that between your shows, like your solo acoustic shows and your shows for Adam, do you typically keep most of your gear that you're using with him on you personally, or do you kind of take your acoustic rig and then the rest of that's in the trailer and they're just going to pull that up for you?
Oh, I wish it were that convenient. It typically ends up all in my car.
Yeah, so you just got two different rigs in there. And
Exactly.
Shit's chaos. You know, it's just like trying to make sense between what cables I need or like a wireless setup. It's like, do I really need to have two of everything? Like, yeah, you need two of everything.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. It's a bit of a headache.
It is, but, you know, that's part of the game. So how long have you been with Adam now?
I am coming into year 5.
That's
with
awesome.
Adam. Yeah.
And that's what kind of provoked your move to Nashville, right?
Yeah. So I no longer live in Nashville. I actually moved back to my hometown in Illinois because I fell in love with it. Everyone wants to get out of their hometown when they're a kid.
Yeah.
And I certainly did. And I found that in adulthood, I kept returning and visiting and loving it more and more every time that I went back. The community became really supportive of my music career. My hometown is a town called Robinson, Illinois. If you know where Terre Haute, Indiana is, it's about 45 minutes southwest of there, just over the border. And it serves as a really central base. Mm-hmm. It's only 3 or 4 hours from here. It's only 3 or 4 hours from Nashville, 2 hours from Indianapolis, 4 hours from Chicago, 3 hours from St. Louis. So I go to Nashville about once a month, kind of like I come here about once a month, and I do riding with Adam often, Ryan Robinette, whoever else. But yeah, I lived in the Nashville area for a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about leaving for a little while that kind of affirms to people that you're doing the thing you want. You know, if you always talk about leaving and you never do, it kind of kills some of the momentum for a lot of folks. But there's a great thing about coming home and realizing that there's something about a place that does feel like home for whatever rhyme or reason. It's where you grew up, or it's where you know somebody.
Yeah.
It's something that kind of drags you back.
Yes.
What was the day that you knew that you were going to move back?
Well, I would say in 2023, there was a high school program, or there is a high school program called CEO. It stands for Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. The first year they offered it in my home county. It's a county-wide class. It's a high school class for juniors and seniors, and it's a business class that meets off campus. And the first year that they offered it, I was in it. So my senior year of high school. And in 2023, I became a mentor for the program. They, in the second semester, assign students to mentors, people that are doing business in some capacity that they can use as a resource. Well, I heard that the teacher was going to be on maternity leave. She was expecting twins. And through a weird series of events, I ended up teaching the class for 6 weeks. So I moved back home for 3 months, and it was in between my transition from Cincinnati to Nashville. And I ended up living back home for 3 or 4 months, but teaching the class for 6 weeks. And it was then that I was like, I think I want to be back here eventually. But I had Nashville on the horizon, and I had always wanted to be in Nashville for at least a period of time. And ended up living about 15 feet away from Adam Calvert.
Yeah.
And we never got sick of each other. So it was actually, that time was, I cherish those memories.
Yeah, 15 feet's probably pretty luxurious for guys that sleep on a bus together. I mean, at that point, it's like that feels like enough distance. But that's super odd to be kind of like on the edge of this new move from Cincy to Nashville, and then to kind of re-engage with your hometown and start to kind of feel that calling going on there.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right. And that's a great way to put it. What really happened too that made it feel like the right time was last year. I met a gentleman named Thomas Borders, and he is this is a crazy turn of events. I was doing an event in Indianapolis, kind of a fair and festival thing, where multiple types of talents show up and are trying to get booked for things. And this guy named Thomas Borders was representing the Full Throttle Monster Truck League. And I have a thing for monster trucks.
Like a lifelong thing for monster trucks?
A lifelong thing for monster trucks. And I had no idea who this guy was or where he was from. And I started asking him a million questions, saying like, look, man, I do music. That's my first love, but I've always wanted to be involved in monster trucks. How can I get involved? And he said,
Did you think about this ask before? You're like, I know that I'm full-time in a career that I'm super passionate about, but I could make time for you and your large vehicles. And
yes. Yeah, I knew the implications of the question.
Okay.
And he said, he told me about himself. He's from Terre Haute, Indiana, which I mentioned earlier. It's a little under an hour from my hometown. And we didn't know each other, so I had no idea that this guy was going to be super close to where my family was from. And he said, look, if you're willing to come by, I'm a father-daughter team, and my daughter is 18 years old and kind of petite. She can't really hold some heavy stuff. I could use a dude in the shop that could hold a few things.
A father-daughter monster truck business is the most absurd rom-com. And unfortunately, that means you're going to enter as the man that falls in love with the daughter and takes over the family business. Watch your shit before they start bringing the film crews, dude. That's wild.
Oh, that would be good reality TV.
That would definitely. You could be competing with the Mormons at that point.
Oh.
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Yeah, Indiana monster truck love affair. That could be wild.
Well, I want to keep my job with him.
Yeah.
So I'm watching that. But he said, if you could come lend a hand in the shop, I'll teach you anything you want to know. And I was like, look, dude, I've never changed my oil. We're talking about a pro motorsport here. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, I could really use a hand in the shop.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do that. Well, one thing led to another, and I started working with him. And then the owner of the league that they run for, his name is JR. He and I met, and he was like, oh, you're a musician. Well, you must be okay at talking to an audience. I could use announcers for the league. I'll hire you to announce. And so I started announcing on days that I wasn't pit crewing and filling in my tour schedule with monster truck shows. And
that's eclectic. That's super eclectic. What's it like to warm up your voice for a monster truck event versus going to sing a 3-hour gig?
Oh, man.
You warming up for this shit, or you just going and yelling on a microphone? Please don't blow out your voice doing monster truck rallies.
No, and you know all about it. It's like proximity effect.
Yeah.
The whole Sunday thing sounds really good if you're like this close to the mic.
Yes.
But you don't have to yell.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
And so I'm careful. But they let me bring my guitars to the show and jam along with the house music and like get the crowd pumped up. It's the weirdest reality.
Yeah, it really is.
So with that, they're located in Indiana, and that all made more sense to then go home and be close to that. And the other thing is, when it comes back around to the music, my dad is in my band. He's my keyboard player. Mm-hmm. My mom and I kind of partner on the back end, on the business side of things. She helps make some of my merchandise. She goes to certain events with me. Kind of like industry events. And so I grew up doing gospel music with my grandparents and my dad. And so music has always been a family affair. So being close to family was paramount, and it made a lot of sense. And then when the monster truck opportunity came up, and that where I live in Illinois is such a central base to a lot of big Midwest cities, it was like, this all makes a lot of sense to go back home and be around family and be near the team, the truck team. And
do you worry about your hands?
100%.
That freaks me out a lot, dude. I mean, just like the idea of you losing a hand to a monster truck and being like, I guess I play drums now in Def Leppard. Like, is this what happens next? Like, what precautions does one take if you're going to be working as pretty much a mechanic and playing guitar for a living?
Yeah. So almost every driver that I've met that I've gotten to actually know, they bring that up. And so everyone has been really cool with if I'm doing something like, hey, maybe let me do that, or like you can do that a little slower than normal because we want to make sure that you're watching your hands and always wearing gloves, things like that for anything that seems like it could be.
Do most of these guys service their own vehicles?
Yeah, so we run on an independent circuit. We're an independent team, so you'll see Monster Jam, which is like the big. They'll be at the arena downtown here in Cincinnati. That's pretty corporate sponsor level stuff. That's like the NFL of monster trucks. We're an independent team, and so we don't have a full-time pit crew where the driver just stays in the truck and doesn't even touch the truck. It's the driver, Thomas, and his daughter. They do everything on their trucks. And if there's someone around to help, then great.
Yeah.
Thomas's dad, it's a family affair for them. So they're like my family being 3 generations in music. They're 3 generations in monster trucks. So
that's wild. Did they both drive? Both the father and the daughter.
Yes, and the grandfather used to drive, but he's retired. But he still goes to hang out at events and help out. And
what are the chronic injuries associated with this? Do these people have like serious concussions and whiplash from this lifestyle?
The old school guys do.
Okay.
So I didn't mean to come on your podcast and geek out about monster trucks like off the bat.
I'm too curious about what this could be, so let's not stop here. I mean, don't blue ball me on monster trucks. Like, are these people? How does this end in this career path? That's what I really want to know, because like it's got to get better. You get better suspension, things like that.
Yeah. Oh, you actually just nailed it.
Okay.
So in the late '80s, early '90s. Guys, monster trucks started in 1975 with a truck called Bigfoot. A gentleman named Bob Chandler created it. I'm probably gonna mess this up. I think he put 48-inch tires on his truck, which was huge at the time. Now they run 66-inch tires. That's what you see, like the big irrigation equipment using out in the fields. But they were on leaf spring suspension, so almost like what typical cars and trailers use.
What does leaf spring mean?
So it's essentially like a shock absorber that's like these metal plates that just kind of bounce, and they're like stacked on top of each other. They're kind of leafed on top of each other.
So if you want it to be more taut, you're gonna have more layers of this. It's like ply on a drum kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great analogy. That was a really rough ride, and guys at that time were just putting like typical van seats in their truck, and you can see them driving. They've got their head out the window and their elbow up on the ledge, and a lot of them came home with bruises on their left side because they're driving. Well, now and those were just modified trucks. You go to the dealership, buy a truck, and then chop it, do whatever to it. There was kind of I don't want to say there was no regulation back then, but people were experimenting with their own methods. Now it's a little more regulated. They've switched over to tube chassis, which is a big tubular chassis. The truck is basically a go-kart. There's nothing that's stock about the truck. It's not a modified truck anymore. It's
built just for this. Now, when you say it's a tube chassis, so it's like hollow rails make up the body of this? Is the chassis the body?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it looks more like a go-kart. Like if you take the fiberglass body off, because all those bodies are just fiberglass.
And why is that? Weight?
Lightweight, yeah. And you can make custom bodies.
Is fiberglass dangerous when it breaks?
The way that they make this, it's kind of like flexible.
Okay.
And it doesn't like shatter.
Yeah, because in my mind it's like tempered glass. It's like non-tempered glass explodes into a million pieces and will wreck your life. Like fiberglass breaks like that in my mind. So
no, this is a very like pliable material, and so going back to the suspension, what they did was in the early '90s they switched over to a mixture between hydraulic and nitrogen. So there are these shock absorbers. There's like these big columns essentially. They're hollow, and on one side there's a puck in the middle that separates it into 2 sides, and on one side there's hydraulic fluid or oil, or guys use different liquids. And then there's nitrogen on the other side. So the gas will compress, but the fluid runs back into an accumulator. So when they land, the fluid shoots into an accumulator, and then it comes back.
So the fluid displaced into the accumulator, is that where the nitrogen is, or the nitrogen's on the other side?
It's on the other side of the puck.
Okay,
Yeah.
so as that expands, now there's force going back the other way, or the force is released?
And there's I guess I should have mentioned, there's like a steel shaft that comes in and out of that shock. So that's what they call travel, how much travel is set. So they set what's called ride height, and that is how high the truck sits, how far that shaft comes out while the truck is just static.
Yeah.
And then when it lands or jumps, how much of that comes out or how much of it goes back up into the...
So when someone's doing a jump like that, are they intentionally engaging something that's going to give them more lift from this shaft, so that there's more, like...
Yeah, like a more rebound
catch.
at the bottom? Yeah.
And are you manually engaging something like that when
No.
you're airborne? Okay, it just knows to do that. That's how it's set up.
Right.
I'm an idiot about cars, so this is fucking with my head.
And I'm the new guy, so
How long you been doing it now?
I'm coming into a year of working with the team. So
That is unbelievably bizarre and awesome. And everything, like, life is a Venn diagram. Your two worlds intersect in the middle. Like, how much has this made you think about your stage show in terms of, like, the entertainment value that you see in a gigantic monster truck event versus what you can do with Adam or in your own show?
Well, that's ironic that you bring that up, because I have always told people that my onstage antics are inspired by monster trucks. It's a mixture of Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and everything I saw my favorite monster truck drivers do as a kid. I try to drive my body on stage like some of the great monster truck drivers drove that I watched in my childhood. And so absolute chaos and carnage. I am known for throwing my guitar 10, 12 feet in the air and spinning around my neck, and on occasion jumping into the drum kit. So the Kurt Cobain thing of jumping into the drum kit. And so
that sucks. That's not a good bit to hold on to. That'll fuck your life up, dude.
Yeah, well, it's I've managed it so far. I don't run and jump like Kurt did. I kind of stylistically fall into it.
Yeah, it's like, I know the biggest ride cymbal has the most catch, so let's go from there, and then we'll eat into a hi-hat stand. Really.
Yeah. Well, you only do it when it's backline provided, you know?
It's a great point.
But I will say that Full Throttle has invited me on their monster truck tour this year to be doing some music for them. So
cool.
I will be providing music at some of the monster truck shows, as well as, I guess this is the right time to bring it up, I'm going to be driving the truck at some point.
No shit. Okay.
This summer. So
that'll be quite the music video.
There-
Are you
yeah,
prepared to shoot this whole thing and make sure you get the right content from it? Because, like, I feel like I've seen you working on a chassis. I've never seen you in a truck. You know, that's a big day for the internet. So
yeah. So I drove one last year.
Okay.
Thomas, for about 30 seconds, put me in the truck, and he said, "Put it in first." And that was about the experience that I got. We were cleaning the trucks one day on his property, and before a big show, and so I got to get a feel for the truck. You know, the weird thing is that they have rear steer, so you drive the steering wheel with your left hand, and then it's a toggle switch that you use with your thumb essentially, and you turn the back wheels.
Why?
Because have you seen a semi make a turn?
Yeah.
And they have to go way out and around?
So, like, the way you want to drift is manipulated by the right hand on a toggle switch?
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
toggle switch.
They drift a little bit depending on how fast you go, but it's to make the pinpoint turns.
That is...
Because otherwise they'd have to make a big.
I guess two wheels wouldn't make much sense either, but, like, that just...
Yeah, two steering wheels.
That'd be kind of tight. That's fucking crazy. So, do you feel like, you know, one thing I know from a lot of musician friends is you go from being a young kid that's hungry for gigs, writing all the time, full of creative inspiration, and then you make it your full time, and you start to run out of capacity to write, to record, to just exist as someone that enjoys music. Has having this totally separate life helped you re-engage kind of that creative energy, or do you feel more tired than ever?
I feel more inspired than I have in a little while,
Good.
and multidimensional. So that's a really great point that you brought up, and I do see that a lot, and I've seen it in myself, and I've complained to a lot of friends. My close friends that know me know that I feel like I have a little bit of an existential crisis every day to a degree, and I think that is typical across the board with musicians, because like you said, you've dreamed of it since, who knows? I mean, for me, I knew that I wanted to be a musician in some capacity since I was 3 or 4 years old, and I grew up doing it with my family. And then when I think I was 12 or 13, I saw a video of Kiss, and I thought, that's what I want to do with my life. And because who doesn't see Kiss and think that's what you want to do with your life? And you build it up in your head to be something that no matter what you build it up to be, it's usually not. But for me, I idolized groups of the 60s and 70s in particular, and that version of the industry is long gone, and perhaps never existed in the way that we see it in documentaries or in film, or of course, not everything was broadcast on the internet, so there wasn't a massive influx of information about it at the time in real time. And the industry is changing because of multiple factors almost daily. And it feels a little bit disillusioning, and that can feel a little depressing when you feel like maybe the thing that I've wanted doesn't exist in the exact way that I've pictured it to exist. And that to me can be perhaps the most discouraging. But I have to remind myself that that's separate from the art of music, and that music is not the bad guy in that picture. Perhaps it's more so the industry. And I'm not here to say every record label or every industry person is a bad person or whatever, because I think sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater when talking about record labels. Oh, they're evil. And it's like, well, they're a business, and I don't shame anyone for being in business.
It's an institution that reflects the greed of being people and trying to get ahead, and unfortunately, few make it through, and then a lot get thrown aside, and that's just it's part of the game, unfortunately.
I'm inspired by independent artists, and Adam's an independent artist, and he's really taught me a lot about how to navigate the world of music independently. And I mean, there's a million independent artists out there, but I think he's someone that's doing it well, doing a lot of fairs and festivals, which is really a great market to be retaining real fans and gaining real fans, and being able to put on an original heavy show. And of course, he's built quite the production behind his show, and he's done really well with promoting his work organically. And I've been very blessed to study under him and to be brought into the fold with him and his writers and his kind of tertiary team of people. And so that's been great. And so I get inspired by that. But to bring it back around to your question, if the monster trucks make me feel maybe a little more inspired, when I moved to Cincinnati, it was in COVID. And I picked up a weird hobby then, and that was storm chasing. Because it's like, what do you do that's socially distant? And so an ex-girlfriend and we went out to Norman, Oklahoma, and we did storm chasing. She was a really good photographer and videographer, and so to us it was kind of this dream vacation, just watching these big supercellular storms in the plains. And I really studied up on meteorology and maybe how to read radar a little better than I could already at the time, and understand how kind of the genesis of storms and what's going on in the sky. And I remember returning from that first trip in May of 2020 and feeling like a different person. I felt like I had been a one-trick pony for the majority of my life doing music, and then all of a sudden I had this new passion, and it kind of invigorated the music a little more because it made me feel like a multi-dimensional person. And I knew then that, because I had dreamed of storm chasing since I was a kid, I was like, well, if I can do that, maybe someday monster trucks will be on the docket as well. But music comes first, as much as we've talked about the other stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it such a makes a conversation more honest. Like I think a lot of people feel exactly what you said. I feel like a one-dimensional thing because I know if you're lucky enough to know what you want from a young age, and so many people get to their mid-30s and they say, I don't know what I want from this life. Well, for the folks of us that stumbled on it early on and just pursued that kind of thing, sometimes your desired perception of yourself starts to be all you really understand. And it feels fickle because you look behind the curtain every day. You know the nuts and bolts. You are so normalized to get to step on stage a couple times a week, get to play songs that feel second nature to you. So if you want to branch out, you can branch out. Like all the things that you aspired to have lost the glimmer because you've been here for a while. Yeah. And it's fascinating to hear the way that you discover that you're interested in this, even if it's not forever. You're someone that goes far enough in to look at what'd you just say about like the cellular something of a storm, like
like supercellular storms.
It's super, to go into that detail and to care for these things. Like, well, it all relates to the mechanism that you communicate with the world by.
Yes.
Through the music, it all finds its way into a lyric someday. But if you never address that internal question of, am I just this one thing? And am I even what I expected this one thing to be? Well, there's crisis there. And that can be scary for so many of us.
Absolutely. And the more you add unto yourself, the better you articulate your experience in the world. And that can find its way into your music.
Yeah, it's a Swiss Army knife. Like,
yeah.
You know, there will definitely be a day where Adam's going to ask you, like, you think you can fix the bus? And you're like, dude, I work on trucks that jump 40 feet in the air, and this is straight diesel, baby. Like, this is it's a different thing. But you will have some crossover knowledge from the thing. Are you a science nerd? Am I finding this out for the first time? Do you have, both sides of the brain, left and right?
I don't think I do. I am a wannabe science nerd.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that I'm smart enough. My thing is that I'm willing to do whatever you tell me. If I'm interested in something, I will take, usually, unless it just seems like such a vehemently bad idea, I will take whatever piece of advice you tell me and will apply it. And coming into like the monster truck stuff, I was very open and honest about, like, I do not know anything about what I'm doing, but I will do whatever you tell me to do. And so the gentleman that I work with at Team Monkey Business, he was like, actually, I really appreciate that, as opposed to you coming in here with a bunch of like predispositions and ideas of your own. Not that I don't want you to have ideas of your own, but
a clean slate to train.
A clean slate to train, and you're willing to do it. And so I say all the time, I'm simply a dumb guy looking for answers, and sitting at the foot of the masters and humbling myself to the knowledge at hand.
Yeah.
You know.
And within that, you know, like there's this project of working on the trucks with this family and learning there. There's this project of being a supportive player in Adam's band.
Yeah.
And then there's the individual pursuit of you and your material and your touring. Like, how do you continually carve out time for that when these two other bases are structured, and that is personal motivation?
So with Adam, I'm very blessed that I get to do, on a lot of his shows, I'm the opening act. He likes promoting his show as we're a self-contained show. So we show up, we have the light show, oftentimes we bring a sound system, or we subcontract out a sound company that were usually are good friends of ours, and then we bring an opening act, and I have the blessing of getting to be the opening act 90% of the time, and that lets me play my original music in front of his show. Then I come back on and play guitar for him. Oftentimes he throws in one of my originals into his show, and now I've been riding with Adam. So in 2024, the tour was called the City Limit Tour. That was a song that him and Ryan Robinette and I wrote together. And then last year it was called the Double Wide Dreams Tour, which is a song that him and a group called The Heels and I wrote together. three ladies out of Canada that live in Nashville now. All of us got together and wrote this song. And so I feel like I'm getting to promote different facets of my career all in one go with Adam. And then in terms of touring with my own band, Adam does a lot of his full band work in the summer and the early autumn. So the late autumn through the winter and early spring, I go out with my band. You know, we just played in Chicago for 2 back-to-back nights this past weekend. Or I do my solo shows, and I try to fill up my schedule in the, like I said, the late winter, spring, late autumn with my stuff. And then the monster trucks run during the summer, so there's a bit of a balancing act there. Like I said, the music takes the priority, but when I'm not on the road, because there's always days off, and ironically, the monster trucks seem to do really well during the week. You would think it'd be a weekend thing. Of course, there's the typical joke of Sunday, monster truck rally, but really it's a lot of Mondays through Wednesdays. I mean, they do every day of the week, but there's a lot of Monday through Wednesday or Thursday shows. And so I go out with them, and then I find a way to make it to the show the next day.
Well, it's a good reminder to all the musicians where filling your calendar doesn't have to be the one thing that you do. Like, I'm very fortunate that my whole schedule revolves around my work and my tunes. But I know a lot of folks where it's like, this is my weekend band, and this is my weekday project. Or they're balancing some type of corporate work or, AV work, whatever that's going to be. And it doesn't need to make sense to anybody but you.
Yeah. You and I have a friend, a guy that I've played with a lot, Aaron Roy, who
one
is
of the best in the game.
Yeah, he's one of the best, phenomenal drummer. He's out with
Joe
Jordan right now.
Crushing.
Yeah.
Fueling America's proposals one by one show at a time.
But Aaron has been a master for almost a decade plus. I don't know, of doing that kind of balancing act between 3 or 4 gigs at one time. I of course met him playing for Billy Brown, but Aaron does AV work at
with 3CDC Memorial Hall. He'll do the parks and whatnot, Fountain Square every once in a while. So
running sound, running lights, but then he's out on tour with an artist that's blowing up, and then he's playing local gigs with people like myself, Billy Brown, touring with people like myself, you.
He's one of those guys, and that's what you need to hope in markets outside of a Nashville or an LA, where you start to look around the local gig economy and say, are guys available? If I need to do a weekend run, I need to have the right combination between the guys I call a year and a half out and the guys I call about next weekend because something happened.
Yeah.
And if there's not enough work to support availability at a high level, then that's when you start to find your market's not going to be competitive with one of these largers. But it's guys like Aaron that really do make that difference, that blend their ability to a lot of different types of work in live production.
And that goes back to that Swiss Army knife concept that you talked about, because I've seen Aaron help save the day on a few gigs doing not what he was called to do, which was playing drums, but ending up helping the sound crew or whatever figure out a problem with their digital mixer or whatever, because he has that experience.
Yeah.
And so that's being dangerous in a good way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's so many things about just like, you didn't expect to come on here and talk about the monster truck things, but we don't live in the same world of 60s, 70s, and 80s rock stars where you need to have an identity that was clearly labeled one thing. It's like it's much more of an economy of people, and your products come along with that personality, and hopefully they support both. But what's the crossover between fans of the Trucks and fans of Damon Mitchell? Well, I saw him and he played at one of these events, and he loves the thing that I love. We have something in common in the Trucks, and now the material also supports that. It is the music that you put on when you're going to the show or when you buy the CD and you're leaving,
Exactly. And you brought up the word personality. I think anymore people connect with personality almost as much as they're connecting with the songs.
I'd say 90% more than the songs. And not unfortunately, it's just music is a passive thing for most people. Like unless you play, not a lot of folks actively listen to the songs. It's a very weird ask.
It's very strange, and there is part of me that would almost use the word unfortunately for that, because
I can't tell you how to enjoy a nice meal either. You know, you could gobble that shit, and I spend an hour working on it. It's like, well, fuck your feelings. You know, these things they're used for what they want. Like, you know, what you and I have talked about the many things in making a living in music, like your merch sales. You're someone that's going to bring in the CD rack and have a nice display. And like one of the things that does best for me that I tell all musicians is lighters. Lighters because they're utilitarian. You don't need to like me to buy a lighter. And that's great in a lot of the clubs I play in. Not that I'm trying to make fans, but if you just need a Bic lighter for the rest of your weekend,
You got it.
I'm your guy, you know? If you just need a happy song for the next 2.5 minutes, I'm your guy. But if you want to dive into this full live album and hear what me and my friends have been crafting over 3.5 years, and you don't even give a shit that all this time's gone, and you're like, well, that was 45 minutes of my drive. Cool. What's next, you know?
It's interesting how you pour your life into something. And you could say movies are the same way. You know, movies take 3 years to make and who knows how many millions of dollars. And then it's gone to the consumer within an hour and 20 minutes. And for us, it's, you know, I put 1 year, 2, 3 years sometimes into making a record, and you listen to it for 30 minutes on your drive, and you even skipped over some parts and where you just kind of tuned out. But yeah, that's where it gets into the existential crisis a little bit.
Yeah. Well, like, is my everything allowed to be your nothing or to be your something? The same thing happens with people, you know. My wife and I talk about this so much, where you want to talk about feeling like a one-dimensional being. It's like if I didn't have my wife to talk me off that ledge, but also to give me purpose as a husband, as a roommate, as the cat dad, you know, that I changed the litter box. That's my fucking job. You know what I'm saying? Those things are moments where everyone else can see me as a bar act or an artist they love, or just the next guy that's gonna play Sweet Caroline for $5. I'll hoe out for that. Fucking whatever. But to her, I can be everything that she wanted in a spouse. So to them, I can be something, and to her, I can hopefully try to be everything. And we can't force that idea of worth on anybody. You can just show up and hope for the best. You know, it's been amazing to me what TikTok's done for me this year, because I made fans and friends on there that found everything in my everything. That treated me like I had the same value that I'd always hoped, that took the value proposition. And that doesn't mean I give up on the other audience that didn't find that. I go at it more because I know there's someone to catch 90% of it, and the rest of it, that can be for everybody else. Fuck it. Let's see what happens, you know?
I think finding your market, as they say, is one of the trickiest things, but it's one of the most rewarding things. I mentioned that CEO program earlier, and I'm on the board of directors for it now. And I did we were doing like a recruiting day last week in Crawford County, Illinois, going around to the different high schools trying to get sophomores and juniors to sign up for it for next year. And I was doing in a gymnasium, and I was doing this kind of presentation with the current teacher and another former student named Court. And we were talking, got done, kids were coming up asking questions to us. And this one kid, he was in the doorway. He hadn't seen any of the presentation. He was just walking by, probably 14, 15 years old. And he waved me over. And I didn't know if he was pointing at me, so I kind of did like that thing where I just pointed at myself, you know, and he was like, yeah. He waved me over. And I've never met this kid. And he was like, Damon, I know who you are. You're a musician. I listen to your song Heist every day. It's on a playlist. That's a song I put out in 2019. It's like the opening track on my first EP, you know, and in my mind that era is long gone, and here he is still listening to it. And that makes you feel something. That's really even hard to put into words, but you have those little reminders of like, oh, people are out there that enjoy this and that derive meaning from it, and that are getting something out of it. And just because, you know, you talked about teaching someone to enjoy a nice meal. It's like, well, there are lots of people that don't like absolutely exquisite food, you know, and that doesn't mean that food's bad. In fact, it's like some of the greatest culinary experiences ever, but their palate's just not.
They don't like clams, you know?
Yeah,
they got shellfish allergies, like whatever it is. Like, I can't bring you to the table and tell you to love this.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that too is like that song can be a part of that kid's life without you. There's a weird thing about music where it can live without you and be everything to somebody. It's like it can be a sick obsession, and they may not like your other stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
I had a guy come up to me at a festival in Newtown where he's like, "I have your CD. I like Colorful." And I was like, "You listen to the whole CD, and that one's your favorite?" Like, there's this feeling, like you said, like I moved on from that one, but it is a sweet reminder that I don't get to assign worth. I just output and hope, and there's one thing that I always remember from college was you don't make the product and find the customer. You find the customer and make the product. Mm-hmm. And that sucks for songwriting in some ways if you look at it as a limitation for writing. But it's more of a proximity for putting stuff out. Like, well, why don't I just show them everything and what they like? I'll give them.
So what do you think about that? That's an interesting thing. Making the product and then finding the customer versus finding the customer and making the product.
Yeah.
What do you think about approaching music like that? Because having lived in Nashville for a while, I see that a lot of like, well, we got to write songs about X, Y, and Z because that's either trending or that's something that will go over well and appeal to this market, as opposed to just laying in your bed with a guitar and tuning into the cosmos and kind of having what some might call a download from I guess the ether or the cosmos, because
the muse with God, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
I don't think you let the ambition of being successful in this world violate that process. I think this process of what would do well on TikTok, what will get me picked up, what will get this in front of fans, like that's where I just show them and I ask, before I spend the 3 hours making the record, tell me what should be on the record. We live in this era where you can be on TikTok just sitting there writing. And if they don't like the chorus, it doesn't have to be for them. But now that I have the audience, I can ask. And I can show them all the songs. And we can pick these things together. Like now, my live streams pretty much dictate what comes out next.
Okay.
And at least within that, the customers, the folks who have decided that they see the value in it that I'm trying to put forward, well, now they're kind of guiding the rudder. And I get to go play catch with the cosmos and write these songs.
Yeah.
But before I put in the effort in the packaging, before I try to sell this shit to Little Debbie's, I got to make sure it's going to work for what they need. So
you're writing kind of uninhibited.
Yeah.
But then using your performance or your online presence to
decide the release cycle in single format, and also working with the audience with the hook in mind. So like I'll go on there and I'll produce and I'll start with the chorus. And if the chorus doesn't bump in the format that they're gonna find of 30 seconds for new followers, like if me and the live stream are having a good time, if me and my 10 people are really getting down with this, awesome. If we're not, pitch that shit. Come back a different day. Like, because there's so many elements of the song finding itself in that medium. And that if it's not clicking, let's not force it. There's no reason to say I need 10 songs. I don't. I need one song, and I have all these ideas that were given to me by the greatest inspirations of my life. And now we get to go have fun on the playground. And at some point, we find out that the recipe's so damn good that I can sell it to Little Debbie's, okay? Now we got ding-dongs. That's the only way that we can find out what is palatable to folks is by being vulnerable about what we like, what they like, the Venn diagram in the middle. It's like you're not going to write the first song that's going to kill for the monster truck audience off the rip. It's going to be 5 in. But you now have a closed environment to trial test these songs and go play it for them. And someday someone's going to pull you aside and be like, dude, when I fire up my car in the morning, I don't care. That's a 96 Accord. When I'm pulling out the driveway, I put that on. I put the windows down. And I try to take every GTA jump that's available to me. But I don't have the suspension for that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not on hydraulic nitrogen.
Exactly. Yeah, there's doing whippets, and that's just how...
Interesting, man. Well, I like that approach.
I wouldn't say I'm actually doing it. I'm trying to learn how to do it. And it's great to talk these things through with other artists because it does feel sad at times.
So one thing that I find ironic is, maybe ironic's not the right word, playing a song that you recorded. I have this thing where I don't usually play original music that I haven't released live on some sort of platform at my live show. I always want to think that I can direct people where to hear that song. If they liked it, hey, scan the QR code behind me and you can find that song on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, whatever it is. But the flip side of that is I then end up coming across some new dynamic in the song when I start playing it live after a year or so. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had found that before I recorded it. You know, I wish that guitar riff that came to me in the middle of nowhere at this one show, that's now a staple in that song when I play it live. Well, that's not on the record because I had never played it out 100 times before recording it.
Yeah, most of my favorite arrangement moments come from the band. Like I bring the songs to the table, and then they go have fun with it. And sometimes the audience directs that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'll be in the middle of a live stream and someone will volunteer a medley. And I'll go rip that medley, and then it'll cue to me that these songs feel the same. And then I can go listen, and that becomes the reference material for that next song.
Yeah.
And I definitely understand like the value proposition. Like if I give you something, I want you to be able to have it. But how romantic is it to say, like, I'm working on this recipe. It's not going to be out for a little while. So let me show you just a little bit. And to have that always be like the slot that's dangerous and that's new. If I don't have that in my life, I'm dying a slow death. If I'm not playing songs for you that I don't remember that well, I haven't finished. Because all the changes happen subliminally, you know? So many lyrics, it'll go from can to can't in the back of my head, and it'll never change on the sheet, but the song has just changed dramatically. And it wasn't a conscious choice. It was just like the idea of writing it. But now I'm doing it with an audience, like the way that comedy gets made or the way that jazz gets made, you know? These things that we're in the room together, and once we all feel it, now it starts to click.
That's, that kind of hints towards an interesting thing in my mind. And I've had this conversation with some friends. So I'm a Christian, and there's this verse in the Bible that says, where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there with them. And I've always heard that verse growing up, and usually I've thought about it in the context of prayer. But a couple years ago, I was watching John Mayer, and he said something to the effect of, which I love, that John's become somewhat of like a music philosopher. Like him and Paul Gilbert are just out there kind of talking about, and Victor Wooten are all talking about kind of these subconscious sort of implicit nature things about music and what's happening on like a philosophical level. And John said, I've played by myself in a bedroom. I've played with a looper in my bedroom. Something magical happens when you add the second person. And I thought maybe that's where, you know, something larger comes into play on like a spiritual level. And there's this shared sort of thing, because music is vibration, which everything is comprised of vibration, like on a molecular level, meets time, which, you know, as humans, we're bound by the temporal nature of our universe.
It's pronounced shrimp tempura, but yes, continue.
See, you know, I don't know what that is. What is that?
Shrimp tempura?
Yeah.
No, that's a type of sushi. I'm just fucking with you.
Oh, okay. I know what that is. Shrimp tempura.
Yeah.
I thought you said something that was like, yeah.
No, it definitely wasn't a good add to that. No, I was just fucking with you. No, but I get what you're saying, where it's like, once there's two people in the room, like, it's like that Venn diagram of your interests. Like, we start to find the commonalities that make this thing special. And I always like to think of a song like a room. Like, I don't want anyone to bother me when I'm putting up the structure of the room, deciding what's going to be a wall and what's going to be a door. And once I get to 70, 80%, well, now I need someone else here, because I don't know if that's going to be on the wall here, or if we're going to put a couch in the middle. It's like, we're designing a space for people to come into with us, so let's bring some people in and think through the ergonomics of this. Because if it goes bonkers, then it's a house party, and we need to have space for that kind of thing. It's like this kid, every time he puts on Heist, walks into a room that you built for him to be comforted by the song, to be welcomed by the song. So at some point we need to start to let folks in for the soft open, and getting into that.
There's something that happens that's magical too when the audience is there. Even if you're only a one-man band, the second you add an audience, it's like something enters the room with it, and it's magical.
Yeah. One thing I think about a lot is the bit that I introduce a song with is so important for me to know the song. I'm going to give you 2 lines before we do this that can't be, this is an original song. That can't be, I wrote this on this date and that, or it's on my latest record. It's like, it needs to be informative of why you should give a shit. Mm-hmm. And when I get it right, and they now cue in, now I need to find the part of the song that really connects those 2 things. And sometimes the bit's better than the song, so the song needs work. Sometimes the song's better than the bit, so the bit needs work. But at some point, there's this barrier between you and I speak the same language, and now you and I are both in the same room, and things are great in that. It's very religious. It's like the moment where we can walk out and we can speak every language because you have that gift of the Spirit. It's like you and I don't need to agree on what the sounds coming out of my face means. Mm-hmm. We both just know.
Yeah. There is kind of that like unity.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with instrumental stuff. It's like, and if it's special before the words get there, now we're talking.
It's like I know what that means.
Yeah.
And again, I think that has to do with vibration and time. I don't quite know what's going on there, but I think those are like the fundamental elements of our being, and we're finding ways to manipulate that and communicate to one another through it. And so it's like an omni language.
That's why we like tube amps, dude. Yeah, 100% why we like tube amps and not the in-ears. But at some point we're gonna get what do they call when you play VR video games? The suit that they wear.
I only know the whole Oculus thing.
Okay, what's the haptic response? At some point you're in there, it's just gonna be a full haptic suit. So when you hit that E flat, it just shakes your shit. Yeah, dude, that'd be nice. That would sweeten my world up.
That'd be an interesting like add-on.
It'd be oddly euphoric.
That's like the high ticket tier. You get a haptic suit experience with your front row seat or whatever.
Now we're getting into some weird shit, and I like this because I've always wanted to go to a show and like, okay, hey Ticketmaster Live Nation, if you're gonna scout me to holy hell, like if you're gonna ruin my life with ticket price, at least add some value. I want to go into the app that has my ticket, and I want to have my headphones connected to one of 3 mixes. I'm an instrumental person. I'm a lyrics person. Boost that fucking bass, baby. Mm-hmm. Let me choose so I can go to a venue that has horrible sound and get a direct feed and be able to watch the show with full fidelity the way that I want to.
Yeah, you get your own like personal monitor system.
Exactly. It's like in-ears watered down, and just give me like silent disco options. I get 3 mixes, but that's all I need. Because you go there and people ruin the show for you. It's like, no, that would kick ass.
Yeah.
What would you choose? Instrumental, lyrics, boost that fucking bass.
Well, I mean, being a guitar player and a bit of a keys player, I'm always listening to that sort of thing. So probably the instrumental mix.
Face noises don't really appeal to me nearly as much as other noises do.
Yeah, and I'm not so... I don't want to hear like a horrifically pitchy performance, but I'm not super critical of live vocals. I was having this conversation with someone yesterday that I try to give some grace where it's like, well, what night of the tour am I seeing the band on? Because if this is night 35, what do you expect from the vocalist? Especially like how many days have they played? Like is it 35 shows in 45 days? Like that's a lot.
Yeah. What's the sweet spot? How many shows in a row to be at your best, and how many days off?
Ooh, that's interesting. So we played in Chicago this past weekend at Old Crow, which is in Wrigleyville. And, when I'm in the full swing of tour season, it's, 15, 20 shows a month. But January is so dead that I had done like 5 shows in January, and 2 of them were Adam Calvert shows where I wasn't singing at all. And
you don't sing at all in those shows?
Oh, we were doing like small 20-minute shows. So I was singing like a little bit of harmony, but I wasn't doing any like real intensive singing. And so I had been off for a long time, and I felt great Friday night at Old Crow. So night number 1, growing up, I played in church a lot, and the church I went to had 3 services. And the other musicians in the church band always liked service 3 the most, because they're like, well, we've had so many cracks at it now. We've had a rehearsal Wednesday night, rehearsal Sunday morning, and now we're on the 3rd service. I feel locked in. To me, I liked service 1 because it was the first time that there was an audience engaged. And of course, worship music, people are very engaged. Like, they're there to engage and to sing along and raise their hands and engage, hopefully in a moment with God. But the band is involved in that. But to me, it was like people were still figuring things out. And I think that's where some magical things happen, is when it's still being figured out a bit. And, we played in Wrigleyville in Chicago this weekend, and the band was really on it both nights. In fact, I think it was some of the best we've played, period. But I still think night number 1 felt pretty incredible because there was a lot of experimentation going on, and everything felt really fresh.
And it's hard to catch all those good experiments that happen there.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes a moment happens and it's like, it's gone. Like, so if we're doing 3-hour shows,
yeah.
Like, things get so foggy at the end of that. But in my mind, like, I think I heard that this was what the Stones would do, especially at this point in their lives and careers. But 2 days on, 1 day off really gets the job done for a long time to me. Where night 2 always feels like, well, I know what I did yesterday, but things are warm. And then one recovery day gets me vocally back to fresh and kind of mentally back to fresh. But most of my weeks work out like it's Thursday to Saturday or Wednesday to Saturday. And then Sunday, Monday might be off. Tuesday might be off. But it's hard when it's just a block in and a couple off. It's easier if you just kind of space them.
Last year we out on tour with Adam on the Double Wide Dreams tour, we did the Delaware State Fair, which is 2 shows a day for 10 days. And I mean, they're short shows. They're like 45-minute shows. But so you and I might think of it as sets, but they call them shows. So and it's in the middle of summer, so it's like 100 degrees. And I like that. That kind of goes back to like the treating it as a monster truck thing. Like, I want to run hot. I want to be like drenched in sweat after every show. But on those types of things, I find by like day 4 or 5, you're really locked in. And when we do things like that, almost like a residency, people start coming back. And then you have these like nice moments with new members of the audience. And then you're trying to make it fun and new for the people that have been there every show for 4 or 5 days, and keep giving them a reason to come back. Yeah, the nuts and bolts are done at that point. Now we're just shining things and having a good time with it. And how do you we talked about music being a language and kind of this omni language. How do you make your bandmates laugh by playing a new lick? How do you tell a joke on stage without words? No, my game is that talk back, dude. I haunt people in the talk back.
You're a talk back guy. Sometimes the TikTok can listen into that, and I say heinous shit to my band members. Especially before I throw them a solo. Like, there's nothing I love more than like handing a solo to someone new and then taunting them a little bit on the way in, just to kind of see what happens there. Or having the ability to make arrangement choices during a solo, like bop bop, 2 hits, know. Those kind of things add so much energy and play to it. But unfortunately, I am not the instrumentalist in that band that can shine. Like, I'm surrounded by my superior stuff. I appreciate that, but I can't compete with these fuckers. They got educations and they play their asses off. So, in my acoustic gigs with the looper, I take 50 solos a night. So by the time the band shows up, it's like, I'm going to wait till you guys make me itchy, and then I'll take one. And then I'll let you guys do it, and I'll get itchy again, and I'll take one. I like thinking that I'm the weakest link in my band. If you're not doing that, you're not growing, 100%. Yeah. In fact, my dad, he's been playing professionally for, this year it'll be 60 years. He's about to be 69. He started playing professionally when he was 9. Good for him, man. That's badass. And most of it being gospel music, Southern gospel music. But you're just like the club scene for your father. Yeah. You ever tell your mom things where you're like, Dad, you shouldn't share that with Mom. She doesn't want to hear about that. I think my mom enjoys hearing about it. Okay. So the first gig that we did is a band playing like really truly in a bar. It was this college bar in Chicago, and my dad, he asked me, the rest of us were all like under 30 years old. I'm 29 currently.
this is probably when I was 27. This is just a couple years back. He said, like, well, what if these kids out in the audience don't like me, or they think it's weird that you have your dad up on stage? I'm kind of this old guy in the bar. And I said, Dad, I don't think that's going to happen. First night, this girl like flashes him in the front row.
And he's like, I'm the shit.
Yeah, right.
Gospel's out, dude.
Well, he plays in a gospel band called the Conquerors, and I always wonder if he takes these stories back to them. They
Definitely
think it's
add
funny.
some diversity to his palette, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a geek.
But it's I love the phrase that there's two kinds of music, the good kind and the other kind. I think that's a Duke Ellington quote, maybe. Could be wrong on that. But it's amazing how your experiences in one genre translate to every other live or recorded music moment that you're called on to do.
Yeah.
Because there's two kinds of music, the good kind and the other kind.
Yeah, and we all live in like a hyper-fixated bubble of things we like and things that algorithms think we'll like. But there is like the undeniable category that when you look at some of the greatest songs to ever be written, you just can't get around it. Like Take 5 by David Brubeck and Let It Be by the fucking Beatles are both in this category of tell me you don't like it, and I will make sure that your car doesn't start. Like I will mess up your battery for this. Like you're wrong. You know that, right? You know?
Right. Man, and some of those songs almost seem like hymns in a sense. I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is Bridge Over Troubled Waters by Simon and Garfunkel. It's like I feel like you could find that in a hymnal.
You probably could. Dude, the Collier, the Jacob Collier version of that is awesome, but I got tickets for that show on my birthday last year. And my bass player John said, "Music nerds are going to ruin this show for you." And I said, "It'll be fine. Don't worry about that."
How was that?
Some piece of shit stood behind me and sang the entire show, and I said, "I didn't come here to hear you sing this."
Yeah.
So some music nerd ruined the entire show for me, but
Your friend was right.
he was so right. But the show was banging, top to bottom banging. Just we are too refined to listen to the things we would like to change if we can.
Yeah.
And I should have throat chopped that guy. Just judo chop.
Yeah. Man,
You think about fighting people? I can see it in your eyes, Damon.
Do I think about it? Sure I do.
The freest of birds, you know what I'm saying?
Man, I have no room to criticize Jacob Collier. Is that how you say his last name?
Collier, yes.
Okay. But there's something that's almost too perfect with that music that it drives me up a wall, to be real honest.
Let's just start the rumor that he's an AI right here. Did you know that Jacob Collier is actually an AI? That's the clip. The AI is going to grab that and send it out on the internet. We're done from here.
Yeah. What's the album of his that has the "Here Comes the Sun" cover on it? I downloaded that when it came out and enjoyed it, but I don't need to hear a song cross like 20 genres just to showcase how brilliant you are. It's like, I get that you're a genius, man.
Yeah.
I'm not.
when someone's uninhibited, but then you understand why, like, the general public that doesn't actively listen doesn't really enjoy that kind of thing, because it's not a room that you can walk in and get comfy in. It's a room you walk in that takes you on a ride, that everything's a trap door, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, for music nerds, that's so exciting. It's a fun house. And for other people, it's nauseating, and they need Dramamine, and it's like,
Yeah. I
What?
almost find myself more in that camp, and I wish I didn't, because I would say I'm somewhat of a Yes fan, so it's like, well, that's kind of music nerdy. In fact, I would say that's pretty music nerdy. And,
It's the definition of prog, you know?
Yeah, but I don't find myself really listening to a lot of other prog bands and finding it very listenable, and a little goes a long way for me on that sort of thing. And I don't know what I'm missing. There's part of me that feels like if someone told me what I'm missing out on, then I would, like, a switch would flip, and I'd be like, oh, that's...
I think the problem is we're guitar players. I really do. I think bass players and drummers love that shit because it's like their job can get pretty straightforward.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't love Rush, you know? Like, hate to say it. Like, I think Rush has some bangers.
Yeah.
I can't listen to a whole album and be like, that was perfection. It's like, no, like, you lost me a decent amount, you know?
Yeah.
And these guys in my band, whereas I'm opening the door up for musical collaboration that brings the most intimate parts of my life to a higher level for an audience. These fuckers try to slip rush licks in behind my back 20 times a night.
Yeah.
They'll be like, what, bam, 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 bam. They'll end songs like that. Yeah, without me. They'll call it and they'll hit it and we'll be out, and I'll just be sweating it out in front of an audience. I'm like, they don't like that shit either, guys. But that's music nerds, you know. It's just it's what the type is.
Yeah.
Brothers, we start to wrap up today. Can you tell me about some things you want to promote?
Well, I guess it's crazy that I haven't even brought up. I have a new record coming out.
That you told me not to share. $50, you hit me up, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. If you can get it, take it.
The tunes were fun. The production was cool. I enjoyed it, man.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. So
who played pedal steel?
That was a production element
Cool.
that Caleb Gossage added in.
Sounded great. I heard that and I was like, I feel like that's an interesting inclusion for a Damon record, but I also like the fact that your palette is wide enough that you can do these things if you want. If the song calls for it, you have the ability to.
Yeah, that to be clear, that was a sample is what I meant by that.
That's fine. Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, Caleb called that up. It wasn't like an AI thing, but it was something that someone...
Still the devil.
Still the devil. That's
How dare you not go through the union, you know?
Right. We could talk about that all day long.
I don't want to talk about the music union. Oh my god.
Oh, I don't mean the union.
Okay.
I mean,
we're talking about
why. Spotify paying out 0.004 to 006 cents a stream is why it's hard to have a whole lot of session musicians on a record anymore. Mm-hmm. And obviously, someone got paid to add that sample to a library of sounds that they submitted. And that is generally how it works, is someone gets paid to put a collection of samples together, just for the listeners that may not know.
That's cost effective and it's tasteful. It's like, God forbid I like it, you know? I can use it if I want to.
Yeah. And so we came across a couple on that record that we were like, man, that's too good to live without. One being on a song called The Botanist and one being on a song called Minnesota. But the whole EP is called Hidden in the Architecture, which is a lyric out of The Botanist, which is a really special song for me. My grandfather, he wasn't technically a botanist, but he was a florist his whole life. He had a florist, Mitchell's Florist and Greenhouse in Robinson, Illinois. And so grew up doing music with him, but also watching him for, my whole life, basically. He retired when, he's passed away now, but he retired when he was 87 years old. And he had been doing that since his 20s.
That's beautiful.
And I could tell in the way he spoke about things. He was enamored with plants and their purpose and their uses, and then in simply the aesthetic beauty and meaning that they brought people. And I think there's a parallel to, first of all of us, in whatever your passion is and however you use it in your life, but also... there's a parallel to Adam in the Garden of Eden when God tells him name and order the animals. You know, he's bringing he's naming something and bringing order to it, and kind of fitting it into something functional or making something functional out of it. And that in and of itself is kind of the creation resembling the creator. And I think we're all iterations of that thing. And there's a lot of beauty in responding to that. And I think that's the most accountable thing you can do with your life, is if you have a passion, respond to that and utilize it and investigate the mystery of it forever and ever. And you never know how you'll create something or put order to something that brings a lot of peace and harmony to someone else's life, whether that's music or monster trucks or whatever it may be. And there's a lot of answers to questions that you might have that are hidden in the architecture.
Well, brother, I think that it sums you up well to say that you're eclectic, kind, and a little bit crazy. That's why it's always a pleasure to hang out. So, friends, Damon Mitchell, make sure you got an eye on his new EP, Hidden in the Architecture, coming out on...
It'll be out in May, but I think we're going to be doing something very special in April where maybe you can get the physical album before it's out to streaming. So.
Don't be a slacker. Get that shit on LimeWire. Okay, that's all I'm talking about. Catch you soon, brother. Peace.
Thank you.